In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how you can build and design your own workout program using my everyday athlete system. Super simple, super easy. It's basically just using patterns. And if you can do simple math and count to four, you're going to totally crush this. So this is going to save you a ton of time. This is actually one of the best ways to really just lay out a workout, whether it's a program that you're building and following for several months, or if you're traveling in Hawaii and you need to build a workout, this is going to give you a simple framework to follow. So let's dive on into this. I'm going to pull up the slides again, like we did last time, and we'll go in. So how to design your workout program so you can look and feel athletic without the risk of injury or burnout. That's a really big one for me. How do I do this for the next 30 years, 40 years, however old you are, and not run into injuries and be able to show up day after day and not feel beat up, not feel burnt out? So make sure and stay till the end. If you haven't yet, I'll show you how you can get access to the Everyday Athlete training program. It's inside of the Return of the Athlete app, and that's going to be inside of your High Performance Health Kickoff 7-day challenge as well. So this is going to be a way that you can build strength, build muscle, improve movement quality. These are all things that I've picked up as a former collegiate athlete, as a yoga instructor, as a personal trainer, as someone who coaches fitness full time. This is just a simple system that you can follow, that you can use. And so big thing we're going to be doing here is alternating upper body and lower body. And let me just take a second to have a little monologue. There's a million ways to design workout programs. This is not the perfect one. This is just one that is simple if you want functional, athletic, movement-based exercises. This is by no means what you have to do if you want to do 5 days a week. If you want to do 6 days a week, you can plug this into that system, but it's not, the end all be all, but it definitely works. And it's what I use a lot of time for my clients, and it's what I use for myself as well. So I want to get that out of the way. So what you're going to be doing is alternating upper body and lower bodies while staggering movement patterns. There's no better way to display that than to just simply show you. So we're going to alternate body parts, simply lower body into upper body, lower body, upper body, 4 days a week. And I think it's even a funny way to think about the week is 7 days. It could be an 8-day week, and you just do every other rest, every other rest, every other rest. That's 8 days. That's okay. For some reason, humans live by this 7-day system. The cells in your body really just lives day after day after day, follows the sunlight and the darkness. So this is how it would look inside of a training program: upper body, lower body, walking, upper body, lower body, walking, rest day. Again, you could just have this be where you do it 6 days a week, upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, lower. It could be a situation where you're doing, upper rest, lower rest, upper rest, number of different ways in which you can do this, but ultimately you're doing an upper body, lower body split 4 days a week. Within this, one of the biggest principles is going to be the fact that we are following movement patterns. And there are 8 multi-joint movement patterns that you can utilize within the system: your squat, hip extension, hip hinge, lunge, horizontal press, horizontal row, vertical press, and vertical row. And I'm going to show you examples of each and every one of these in case you are not familiar. If you know exactly what I'm talking about, you can just skip forward a minute and not have to go through this. But when we're looking at squats, we're looking at anything that is the knees and hips going into flexion. So that's going to be what we got right here: goblet squat. This is just me going up and down. This could be a barbell squat. This could be a leg press. This could be a kettlebell goblet squat. This could be a body weight squat, right? Now, obviously, you're going to scale this as needed based on your skill level, but you can go and do, a number of different squats. If we want to do hip extension, let's get out of this squat. Hip extension is going to be any kind of hip thrust. So let's pull that one up right here. Share screen. Hip extension. So single leg hip thrust. This could be a barbell hip thrust. This could be a kettlebell hip thrust. This could be a kettlebell swing. Ultimately, what you're doing is you're pushing your hips forward and getting into hip extension, squeezing your glutes at the top. So let's get out of here and we'll come back here. So then what do we have next? So we did squat, hip extension, hip hinge. This is going to be like your deadlifts. This is going to be your RDLs. This is where you're sending the hips back. And this is going to be as seen here in this kettlebell RDL variation. So we go here, boom, boom, kettlebell RDL, or dumbbell RDL rather. So let's go here. As you can see, we're sending the hips back. coming back up. We're putting those glutes at a stretch. This is a great way to develop the hamstrings, great way to develop the glutes. So we'll go back here. And as you can see, we're just following very simple movement patterns that we do every single day in the gym, every single day in our daily patterns. We'll do one last one for the lunge. Now, the lunge has a little bit more variance just in that it could be a barbell reverse lunge, kettlebell reverse lunge. It could also be a forward lunge, it could be a side lunge. We're basically getting into unilateral movement patterns here where you're just training one leg at a time, really allowing yourself to get into that hip. How you set it up will be more hamstring, hip, glute, or quad dominant as you go through and do this. Now, from an upper body movement standpoint, you have the horizontal press, horizontal row, vertical press, vertical pull. These ones are a little bit more straightforward. So essentially what you're looking for in a horizontal press is going to be a bench press. Number of different ways that you can do this, but a bench press could be something as simple as neutral grip chest press. Neutral grip chest press. So right here, bench press could be a dumbbell, could be a push-up, could be a seated horizontal press. Ultimately, I'm pushing weight away from me in a horizontal movement pattern in relation to my torso. Then you've got a horizontal row. So that's going to be your barbell row right here. We'll present, share screen, boom, boom, barbell row. We're going to get through these, everyone. So barbell row. I'm pulling the weight towards my chest now. Horizontal press, I'm pushing it away from me. Now I'm pulling it towards me. Could be a barbell, could be a dumbbell, could be a seated row machine. Then you have vertical pressing. These are going to be the last two that we will look at just to give you an example of what this is. So a vertical press is going to be a shoulder press. So I'm pushing weight away from me in that vertical pattern, right? So overhead, obviously you can get to inclines. That's where it becomes a little bit more horizontal, but we are pressing weight overhead. Number of different ways you can do this with a barbell, machine, or dumbbells. And last but not least, we will go into a chin up. So that chin up is going to be something that you can do obviously on a bar. It's going to be something you can do on a machine. It's going to be something that you can do, on a inverted row on a barbell. But ultimately, in a vertical pattern, you are pulling yourself up towards the bar or whatever weight it is that you're doing. A lat pull down machine is a really good example of this as well. So I want to just get that out of the way in case you are not familiar with movement patterns, but those are the main ones. And when we are going and looking at, all right, how do we put this into a workout program? An upper horizontal day is basically saying we're working our upper body. We are moving in the horizontal pattern first. We are prioritizing the horizontal movement pattern. So you have a horizontal press for number of sets. We'll get to set programming in a second. Horizontal press, horizontal row, vertical press, vertical pull. We're alternating movement patterns, right? Press, row, press, row. We are prioritizing the horizontal movement pattern. We'll get to the vertical later in the workout. Then when we go to lower body, lower posterior, so glutes and hamstrings, we are prioritizing the hip hinge or prioritizing a hip extension, something that is going to be glute and hamstring dominant. Then we switch, we go to the anterior side. So now we're switching different muscle groups: hip hinge, squat, hip extension, lunge. By no means do you need to follow this exact plan. You can do supersets, you can do lunge number 2 or number 3, but this is just a simple way to say, I'm doing these 4 exercises. Here's how this is going to work. So again, upper horizontal, posterior lower, upper vertical, anterior lower. So when we go into day 3 and day 4, we're just flipping the upper body. We're saying vertical press, vertical pull, and pushing horizontal press, horizontal row. And the thing that I like to do in 3 and 4 on this day is make these maybe single arm movements. So a single arm dumbbell row, a single arm press. So we're getting into unilateral movement. We're getting into single arm movement. That's going to work the core maybe a little bit more, but vertical press, vertical pull. And then we just flip it here. Lower anterior, we're prioritizing quad development, prioritizing the anterior chain. So we go squat. It's going to be something very knee dominant, some sort of back squat, goblet squat, hip hinge, lunge, extension. This allows us to, again, work all the movement patterns throughout the day. Now, you might be at this point and saying, Paul, that sounds great, but that also sounds incredibly boring. Well, one, success is boring. Doing the simple things is boring. If you played basketball, layups and free throws are boring, but that wins games. If you play baseball, throwing strikes, making the routine ground ball, those are boring, but that wins games. If you play football, I can go on and on and on, but it's the simple things that win. It's how you add that little spice. The variety is the spice of life. This is how you do that. Variation without change. So let's say you want to change the stability and make something either harder or easier, make something more strength focused, make something more hypertrophy focused. Well, you might do a standing version versus seated version. Think about barbell curls. You can do that seated, create more stability, or you can do it standing. You could do a free weight, you could do an overhead barbell press, or you could do a machine where you're pressing overhead, more stability, less stability. For a grip standpoint, you could do a barbell reverse lunge, rack a bar on your shoulders, or you could do a kettlebell reverse lunge and hold the weight in your hands down by the side. You can do one arm, two arms, like I mentioned earlier. Angle is also another really big one to preferentially, move to, I guess a better way to put it is your, what's the term I'm looking for? You're basically saying, I want to maximize tension in this area and minimize tension in another area. I'll come up with the term in a second, but changing the incline of equipment, the incline of support, adjusting your joints. Basically what I was getting at is I can do a narrow dumbbell curl or narrow barbell curl, or I could do a wide barbell curl. That's going to target different parts of the bicep, which enables me to work that a little bit more. Hopefully that makes sense. And I was able to get my foot out of my mouth right there. Cool. So principles for resistance training. I just want to give these three. These ones are pretty straightforward, but anytime I'm doing any kind of training, I want to make sure I warm up. Step one, get some blood flow, get the heart rate up. Step two, let me move into this mode. There we go. Step two, activate primary muscle stabilizers. So if I'm doing an upper body day, I want to activate my rear shoulder stabilizers, getting into the rotator cuff and the muscles behind the shoulder and the upper back. If I'm doing a lower body day, I want to make sure that my glutes, my hamstrings, my hips are active before I go and do stuff. Then finally, we'll do some sort of activating of the central nervous system. So we want to do something explosively to get our brain and our body feeling like it is ready to work out. So an explosive broad jump, an explosive jump squat would be great to get ready for a lower body day. You could do med ball slams, med ball throws into a wall, into the floor, if it's a lower body or an upper body day rather. And so that's all just to get the brain and body saying, oh, it's time to work, right? It's that sympathetic fight or flight state of the nervous system we're trying to activate there. Then we want to make sure that we're in the appropriate amount of intensity. Lifting weight to a 7 or 8 RPE. I just did a video on this a few days ago. You can go back and look at that. But that is essentially the intensity that we are focusing on. You're 2 or 3 reps away from failure or even just technical form breaking down. And then one big thing with intensity, try and give yourself 48 to 72 hours between high intensity sessions. This is going to be anything where you're max lifting or max sprinting. And that's just so that you don't fry yourself out. You can only go as hard as you can recover. And then finally, to that point, recovery and rest. Take 48 to 72 hours also between muscle groups each week. So you wouldn't want to go upper body, upper body. You want to give yourself at least 48 hours between those sessions. And then take 2 to 3 minutes of rest between compound lifts in each set. We'll get to that section specifically, but you don't want to just be ramming 30-second rest periods down your throat. That turns into HIIT, that turns into cardio. That is not the goal of this everyday athlete system. So here's how everything would lay out from a training standpoint. Start out with a warm-up, go into compound lifts, finisher. That's it. Pretty simple. So 5 to 10 minutes. This is all going to be contingent on how much time you have and what kind of day it is. But let's say it's 5 minutes doing your warm-up, 40 minutes doing your compound lifts, 5-minute finisher. Boom, 50 minutes, you're in, you're out, no problem. Something that you can do long term. You could also extend this, obviously, spend more time in your compound lifts, do a longer finisher, turn this into a 70-minute session. Not that hard, pretty easy. When we get into a little bit more specifics, this is where it obviously becomes very contingent on who you are and your goals and what it is that you are wanting. But quick framework here, just as mentioned previously, warm up, 2-minute jog or a foam roll, get the blood flowing. Upper body, you might do band pull-aparts, med ball slams. Lower body, hamstring curls, squat jumps. Remember, that is activating the posterior chain. Then that is getting the central nervous system ramped up and ready to go. Then you go into your compound lifts. Now, when I mentioned earlier, you're going to have 4 exercises, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're doing each of these for 3 to 4 sets. Nothing too crazy there. 3 to 4 sets. We can all count that far. Boom, boom. So 3 to 4 sets with 2 minutes rest. 3 to 4 sets with 2 minutes rest. Rep range, 6 to 12. So if you can do 12 of a set, promote yourself, go a little bit heavier. If you can't do 6, go a little bit lighter. That is going to be hypertrophy-based work that is building muscle. If you are a novice, you're very new to the gym, you're going to get stronger, you're going to build muscle. If you want to prioritize more strength and getting those numbers up, a heavier squat, heavier bench press, whatever that is, I would focus more on a 2 to 6 rep range. So a little bit less reps, still same amount of rest though. Intensity right there is obviously going to spike, but again, this is the everyday athlete, someone who's working at Amazon and they're just trying to be healthy, stay fit, and have something that they can do for a really long period of time. Then we get into finishers. This is where it gets fun because you really get to customize this to whatever it is that your goal is and whatever it is that you want to do. Think of these four as like your homework, and then this is like your fun stuff. So you can do core if you really want to prioritize either developing a core or developing a more defined toned core. You can do corrective exercises if there's specific areas around the body that are beat up and you really want to reinforce. Maybe it's a knee, maybe it's a shoulder, maybe it's, a pinched muscle or pinched nerve somewhere and you need to reinforce that. Boom, perfect place to drop some of those PT type exercises in. You can also do that at the beginning of the workout, but that's kind of what band work is to a degree as well, when you're, obviously tailoring it specific to you. Accessory work, this is very similar to core work. This is just aesthetic. I want bigger arms. I'm going to do a ton of volume with my biceps, triceps, and delts. Could also be, chasing the pump in the glutes. You want a big butt? Sweet. Go and hammer the glutes with some more accessory work. Sweaty circuit, that's another fun one where people just want a high heart rate. They want the sweat. They want the heuristic of putting in a hard workout session. So you might set up a 2, 3, 4 exercise circuit and just go knock yourself out. But that's really it. So 5 to 10 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, 5 to 20 minutes, you're in and out in 50 to 70 minutes. No issues there. You could probably make it shorter if you did supersets on these compound lifts, which I'll sometimes do in the third and fourth exercise. So the everyday athlete, I mentioned earlier, you can get access to this and kind of how this lays out in the training program. So that's going to be down below in the description. If you don't already have access to this training app and you haven't already gone through the landing page and given your email information, doing that as well. One of the cool things I like about that, it's going to track your progress. It's going to track a number of different things. If you do want to sync it up with your Apple Watch or Fitbit or Garmin, or different scales can sync everything up, you get a very clear picture of what your workout program looks like for the week, for the month, and it'll even track your nutrition and give you a very clear graph as to how you're doing in terms of your goals. And as seen earlier, this is what everything's going to look like from a training side of things. So very clear, very simple. You just open it up. Here's what you got to go do. Zero decision fatigue. You just go and knock it out. So with all that said, leave a comment down below if you got value, if you got questions, more than happy to answer them. And be sure and check out the next video. We're going to dive into macros, how to set those, how to adjust those depending on the goals that you have for your body composition, and the things that I look for also in when you want to make a change and when you want to just continue to ride it out and just stick with the path, because the path works if you work it. So with all that, thanks for watching. This is Paul Klingen with Return to the Athlete. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.